One of the guys opens the window for the security office, and my picture's on the wall. I said, "You see that guy up there? That's me. That's my wanted poster." I said, "I'm a fugitive. Arrest me."
Investigators say Afzal Bobby Khan, he went from being on the Real Housewives of New Jersey to the FBI's most wanted list.
20 cars turned to 40 cars, 40 to 50, and I'm working from my dining room table. And outside my driveway, I had like $3 million worth of cars. I tipped $1,000, $2,000 before I got to my table to sit down and eat. That's the kind of life I built for myself. I was in your face. The perfect storm begins. The day of my grand opening party.
Emporia Motor Group, with over 10 years of quality service you can trust.
I got served with a lawsuit for $1 million. I said, if I go to the FBI, he goes, "You go to the FBI, there's going to be press out here tomorrow because you throw parties with celebrities. You get celebrity clients." He goes, "You appear on reality TV shows." He goes, "Your name is destroyed tomorrow." At 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday, state police, local police, sheriff's department, out my house with a warrant for arson, terroristic threats, harassment, and all kinds of other charges. And the guy on the right says to me, he goes, "If you give this guy $100,000 in cash, when you get charged and your case comes into my courtroom, I'll make sure you get bail, and in 6 months, I'll make sure I dismiss your case." That man right there was a judge. And I walked out of there, I grabbed my lawyer by his neck, and I slammed him up against, there was a 911 turbo parked there. I said, "But at this point, I don't know if this is a setup or if this is real. But either which way, I'm screwed." He said, "Bobby, do you know any non-extradition countries? Your life as you know it just ended." I said, "I got a wife, I got kids, I got everything." He said, "You got nothing." At 2 o'clock that morning, while the FBI is watching my main house, I had a Yukon in the house next door, and I pulled out that Yukon, and I got in the Yukon, and I drove to Canada. That was the longest drive home. It's like when you're about to face the executioner. I'm in Dubai, can't call my kids, can't call my wife. I have no job, I have no business. I got, at this point, $9,200 in my pocket after 27 times of trying to surrender with no luck. Went on Fox News, no luck. The U.S. attorney wouldn't even respond to Fox News, wouldn't even give him a statement.
My little one was only 7 months when we went overseas. Sophia was 5 when we went. She had just started kindergarten. We were struggling so bad, so bad. I was putting rocks in water bottles for my baby to play with. I had to make them clothes because I couldn't buy them clothes. That was a long 5 years.
I walked into an embassy. I'm a fugitive from justice. I'm here to surrender. They told me, "You can't." 2 days later, I go back. I said, "I want to surrender." They said, "You can't do that here." I called my friends in London, and they said, "Your house was just raided. They didn't find you. Well, you should watch the news. You're the FBI's most wanted fugitive." What?
People look at him and they see what I saw when I met him. You know, but that's what he puts out. You think you know this man? You have no fucking clue.
The perfect storm begins. So this dealership, I carried over the name for my wholesale business onto this. It was called Emporia Motor Group. Obviously, there's a whole new showroom. I had to hire a whole new staff. You know what it is? I sell in a certain way. When I sell, I'm a machine. And anybody you talk to, I have to be closing. I have to be rolling cars. And to sit there and watch employees sit all day long and not sell a single car, that was frustrating for me. And having that retail business, a whole different mindset, I hated it with a passion. So, as I said, I had made a deal with this other gentleman that I'm not going to mention, and I said, "You can sell your cars through my place. This way, those are deals that are being done." And I basically let people say, "Listen, buy and sell cars, use my dealership, do what you have to do." I just didn't care. But I didn't know that that was going to turn into be one of my worst years of my life. The perfect storm, when they say, well, it does exist. And my perfect storm started in 2013, and it started with my son. Stephanie was pregnant again. This is going to be my third and Stephanie's second child. And we lost our son. He was born, stillborn. How do you tell your two daughters that have been waiting that the day of his birth, he just died? And he's not coming home. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And to give you an understanding of how I'm programmed, I'm not emotional. I don't cry. I don't break down. And my escape is always my work. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. So, and my wife knows that. And she knows how it is. So my son passed away at 4 o'clock in the morning. At 9 o'clock that morning, I was at the dealership because life still goes on. People still have to pick up cars. People still need paperwork. People still need to get paid. And the reason I'm telling you this is because a lot of people said a lot of stuff about me later on. But when I make a commitment to something, I stick to it unless it's out of my hands. And if I can show up to work the day my son passed away, that should say something. So that was the beginning of the perfect storm. So now all of a sudden, life comes screeching to a halt. You're like, hold on, I just lost a child, which is huge for people. My wife is distraught. My kids are distraught. You just look at life. Things changed that day for me. I got to see how the world reacts. I had somebody call me up, and actually the somebody was the brother of the person I said I would split 50-50 with you and do deals with you. And he said to me, I'm at my son's funeral a couple days later, and he said to me, he goes, I know you're burying your son today, but can you do me a favor? Can you send out my commission check to me? And I said to him, I'm at my son's funeral. But I got to realize how people are selfish. And you know what that did to me? It turned me off from the world. I stopped caring. I stopped caring. I stopped being human. I became a machine. The dealership was open for almost a year at this point. And we decided to have a grand opening party because all the construction is done and everything. The day of my grand opening party, I got served with a lawsuit for $1 million by the Russian guy, the one I had to kick out. The Russian guy is suing me for possession of the dealership. Not only does he want possession of the dealership, but he wants me to write him a check for $1 million. I called my lawyers up that day and I said, the guy can't have a dealership, but now he's suing me because I kicked him out of here. He legally can't have a dealership. And now he wants to sue me for $1 million. Well, like any other lawyer, all they see is, cha-ching, they're getting legal fees. So now I have to defend myself for a frivolous lawsuit where the guy wants $1 million. And legal fees aren't cheap. So now I'm racking up this lawsuit that I'm dealing with. My wife, obviously, is going through what she is. She literally is at the cemetery every day, every morning, before I decided to take a break. All of a sudden, I started passing out. Like, I'd be totally fine 1 minute, next moment I pass out, I'm on the floor. Or like, I'd have excruciating pain in my head. I'm on a plane to Vegas, I pass out. No idea what happened, right? My brothers are with me, my wife's with me. They wanted to ground the plane, but I got back up and I said, I'm okay. We landed in Las Vegas. My wife said, when we go back from Vegas, you got to go get checked out. Something's not right. So one of my customers was a brain surgeon. He said, look, you got to come out to Mount Sinai, get tested out. And I went back and forth for a couple of weeks. And turns out I got a tumor on my pituitary gland. And also my hormone levels are now all over the place. My testosterone level will go to 700 and then drop to 200 in a matter of minutes. Over the time, that is taken care of now. But now, today, as I sit here, I have something called trigeminal neuralgia, where I could be sitting here talking to you, and out of the blue, you'll think I'm having a stroke, because the entire left side of my face will freeze up, and I'm in the most excruciating pain. I can't focus on anything. Like, a couple months ago it happened, my wife had to rush me to the hospital. She thought I was having a stroke. And they're like, no. And I kept telling them I'm not having a stroke. It's this thing. So sometimes if I sound like I'm slurring, that's the reason, is because I'm in so much pain, but I've gotten to the point where I can mask it. And so now I got this. The third thing that happens is the man that had the dealership that lost it selling Quaaludes, and he's selling cars, We're collecting our 50%. He starts a new business, and that business is hard money loans. Now, if you don't know what that is, well, basically, you can't go to the bank, but you need cash. So you go and say, I got this car, and it's $100,000. He says to you, I'm going to give you $60,000 on your $100,000 car. You have 90 days to pay back the loan at 29% interest. And if you don't pay back the loan, you lose the car, and your car will be sold through my friend Bobby's dealership. Okay? So he tells me he's doing this, and he said, when the cars come to your dealership, I'll give you a price, you sell them, anything, above this certain price, we split 50-50. Okay, that's fine. No big deal. It's extra inventory. It's an extra opportunity to make money. Well, cars are coming to the dealership, and people are selling it. I'm gone. I'm back in Vegas at this point. Vegas has always been a sweet spot for me. That's where my wife and I got engaged, so that's like our second home. I get back from Vegas. My title clerk says to me, she goes, Bobby, we're missing titles to cars. What are you talking about? She says, we're missing titles for this car, this car, this car, and this car. And these are cars that we sold to customers that are waiting to get titles because they bought the cars from us to the dealership. So I said, well, these cars all came from such and such. She said, yep. So I said, okay, let me look into it. The same day, I'm sitting at my desk and I get a phone call. And this is what started the end of everything. The guy on the phone says, he goes, is this Maserati Quattroporte still there? I said, no, we sold that thing 3 months ago. He goes, well, such and such said the car's still there. I said, no, we sold the car months ago. What are you talking about? I said, you got your information wrong. I hang up on the guy. 5 minutes later, that dealer calls me up and he says, put that car back on your website. I said, why would I do that? He goes, put it back on the website, and if anybody calls, tell them it's available. I said, well, the phone call that you're thinking about already came, and I already told him it's sold. No, you got to call him back and say you made a mistake. And at that point, I figured out what's happening. The person that called was an investor. So what happened is this so-called friend of mine, when he started his business of lending hard money, what he would do is he would go to an investor and say, hey, give me money, I'm going to put it out on the street, and we're going to split the 30% interest plus the fees. If the people don't pay in the default, well, the car is going to be sold at Bobby's dealership, and then whatever money that comes from that, you're going to get your principal plus profit from that. So when we sold the cars, we would wire the money to him. Not only did we wire him the money, what he wasn't paying back the investor. Also what happened was, being that he was a friend, he took advantage of it. He would call me up on a Thursday afternoon and say, hey, can you wire me $10,000? When you sell the car, deduct it from there, right? 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. And money was going to him like that. So now, when we sold the cars, we sent him the balance of the money, but he wasn't paying his investors. So now the investors were, some of them in certain loans, because he had multiple investors. Some deals were the investors held the titles. Other deals were he held the titles, and those titles came to us when we paid him because he just Mickey Moused the investors. And then what happened is, in certain situations, the guy that put the car up for collateral paid back the loan. They want their car back, but I sold their car. I don't know that the person paid off the loan, because the deal was the only way the cars are going to come to the dealership is if they were paid. So now I have a serious hole that I have to fix. And I should have, at that point, done the file. I should have called the FBI. But my hatred for the FBI, due to what happened years ago, clouded my judgment. And I called my in-house counsel. He walked into my office and I said, what do I do? He said, you got to clean this mess. I said, this is going to bankrupt me. I said, if I go to the FBI, he goes, you go to the FBI, there's going to be press out here tomorrow because you throw parties with celebrities. You get celebrity clients. He goes, you appear on reality TV shows. He goes, your name is destroyed tomorrow. And he goes, how are you going to continue doing your business? I had to buy back some cars from people that we sold cars to. I had to find ways to get titles. Basically, I had to repay for certain cars to get titles for investors. So I already paid for the car the one time, and now I'm paying again. And it just rolled and rolled. And what that did was it completely dried out my cash reserves. Anybody that's in the car business knows car business takes a lot of cash on hand. So what it does is when it dried up my cash, it affected my ability right there to focus on my normal customers, because we had customers that we were selling cars to that were cars that are ours, or people that had consigned cars with us. A lot of people don't understand the car business. And they say, you know, somebody walked in and bought a $500,000 car. Well, you just got paid today. But somebody bought a $500,000 car, but they traded in a $400,000 car that had a payoff on the car of, say, $400,000. So yes, they financed the new car, or maybe they gave me $100,000 cash. They financed the rest. The bank pays me within 24 hours. I get paid, but the car that they traded in is useless to me because it has a loan on it. I have to pay that loan off. So the money that the bank gives me the next day, plus the $100,000 they gave me, I have to now write a check and wait 2 to 4 weeks to get a title. And the state law is I can't sell a car without a title. So it cost me money at this point, because now that car that I sold is gone. I really don't collect my profit. So there was people that had cars on consignment. The people that consign these cars, now I'm going to be myself, an arrogant person. There were people that made a lot of money, and the thing with them, people that make a lot of money, is they don't ever want to lose money. So these people think that they should buy low, sell high. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. If you want to do that, spend the millions of dollars, build a dealership, and you can do that. So these people say, okay, well, I don't want to trade my car into a dealership because I don't want to lose money. Can I put my car at your dealership and get the most amount of money I can get? So we say, all right, fine, you can do that. I'm going to take a percentage of the sale. So now we sell the car, and somebody that bought the car traded in a car. So now at this point, usually what I would do when I had cash on hand is I would write a check and pay them off, and then I would just sit and wait for the bank to send me the title, and I'd collect my money later. But now that I blew through my cash cleaning up this other guy's mess, there was people that sold cars, and what happened is I would have to pay them in piecemeal. I tell them, look, I'm going to pay you $100,000 this week, $100,000 next week, but they were getting paid. Nobody had a problem with it. What happened, what I found out was I found 5 cars that we had sold. And the 5 cars that we sold, customers had financed the cars through the bank. Now, being that we were a new car dealer, we had a banking license. So we can write the loans ourselves. And these were cars that people bought. The total value of this car was only $865,000, which was not a big deal. And this is a bank I did business with since I was 19 years old. And I gave them millions upon millions of dollars in business. I mean, just a loan that we wrote every month for them was $1 million in loans. So I called them up and I said, hey, I have a problem. I'm going to need a 30-day extension to get you these titles. I have a problem where either I'm going to write you a check and close out the loans, or you're going to get the titles, one way or the other. But I have an issue. Whoever was on the other end of that phone call picked up the phone and called the state of New Jersey's fraud department. The state of New Jersey put out a message that there's something wrong with this dealer. Beware. All of a sudden, people, like every business, has daily accounts receivable and accounts due. You're running a business. You owe money to people every day. I mean, from FedEx to whatever, it's a business. And me and my business, it was millions of dollars on a daily basis. All of a sudden, this one 2-bit reality TV star that had sold us her car, all of a sudden goes to the press and says, I sold him a car and he didn't pay me. Even though she collected $75,000, she had come into our dealership and my manager had a thing for her, had the hots for her. So he promised her more money than I was willing to pay her. And I paid her $75,000 and she wanted another $10,000. I said, I'm not paying you $10,000. That's not what the deal I made with you. So long story short, she figured she was going to strong arm me by doing this. She goes to the news. When she went to the news, all of a sudden, that person, that friend of mine who was doing deals 50-50 with me, used this as an opportunity to walk away from all his debts. He told his investors, he screwed me, he never paid me. He told the people that paid back their loans, you need to go to him and get your cars because he wasn't supposed to sell your cars and he's got your cars. And all of a sudden, within 24 hours, the world explodes and people are coming out of every which way. I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know you. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And now, it's like when there's a fire, all of a sudden people just keep adding more gasoline to the fire. The state of New Jersey, within 24 hours, suspended my license. Now, I'm screaming and saying, look, the only issue is $865,000. I can solve that, but I'm cash poor today. I can literally liquidate some of my personal cars and I can just pay off the bank. No one's giving me an opportunity. When they suspended my license, what that did was they froze my ability to transfer titles. Not only did they suspend my license, the bank cut me off that day and said, you can no longer write loans. The bank also said, shut off my bank accounts. And on top of that, the bank came in and picked up my cars that I had on inventory that were floor planned. So now I can't write loans. They took my cars and I'm out of business. So now any business, if tomorrow you just automatically shut off, you're shut down. You can't pay your bills. And my bills are, I had money due to people that were supposed to get paid or get their titles. Now I can't give people titles because I can't transfer titles. I have a safe full of titles, but they're useless. I had my own cars that were owned by the business that were sitting there. They're like lead weight. They're useless. They're like a stapler. I can't sell them because I can't transfer title. If I can't transfer title, I can't collect money to clean the mess. When people see an opportunity, these people are not dumb people. They're well-to-do people, and they see an opportunity to make money. And when there's chaos, there's a lot of opportunity. Anytime there's a natural disaster, you see a lot of people make a lot of money. Same thing when somebody's in a predicament. Now, I'm the big bad car dealer that just screwed people out of money, they're saying. No matter what I said, nobody wants to listen. At this point, it just went from bad to worse. So not only are all these people I don't know coming out of the woodworks, but there's people that I was actually wrapping up their deals in the process of getting their titles. Or, for example, state of New York doesn't hand over titles to banks within, at least they have up to 6 months to do so. So we sold cars to people, and I said, look, everything's fine. In 6 months' time, or less than 6 months, whatever, the bank is going to get your titles because it's not me. We already processed your paperwork. Well, those people don't want to hear. People freak out. They panic. They figured, well, if I scream and I yell and I go to the FBI, I'm going to be protected. That is the worst thing people can ever do if you're being in a position like this, is running to the authorities. All that's going to do is ensure your process is screwed up once the feds get involved. So I said, your deals will get handled. People are coming to me and saying, if I don't get paid, I'm going to A, call the authorities, or B, fuck you up. And all of a sudden, all these characters are starting to pop up. And people are saying, he owed me 80 grand and he didn't give it to me. I gave him my car was worth this much money and I didn't get this. And I'm reading all this stuff, and this is all online. And Yelp is the worst thing that can ever happen to a business, okay? I swear to God, if I ever find the person that created Yelp, I'm going to knock his teeth out, and then I'm going to mop the floor with his face. Because all of a sudden, all these people are going on and giving me bad reviews. I'm the guy that would spend $30 on a FedEx to send you a $10 check. I never had an issue since the time from age 19 to age 32. I never had one complaint against me in the DMV system. And all of a sudden, I am now a fraudster. They're calling me a camel jockey. They're calling me all kinds of names. They're threatening to my wife. They want to kidnap my kids. And I'm trying to say to these people, I'm going to sort this mess out. Right before all this started, I knew that I was done with the dealership. I didn't want the dealership. And I was either going to sell it, and I was in talks to somebody, or I was going to bring in a partner, and they were going to take over the dealership, and I was going to walk away with 40%, or I don't get involved in it. And that was happening. But now with this happened, all those talks came to an end. That's over. And you're trying to swim through a sea of just shit, and you can't see anything because every time you move, there's more shit in front of you. And all of a sudden, every day, something new's coming up. I'm going to bring up two examples. One guy, that went on a show called American Greed long after my dealership closed, made a bunch of accusations, and a lot of people made accusations. Is a complete putz. Okay, this guy's a doctor, so he's a professional. He had a BMW M6. His car was worth $22,000. That's it. He didn't want to accept $22,000 for his car. He thought he should get all the money for his car. Because obviously, like everybody else, he thinks he's in the retail business. So he sent his car to me on consignment from Florida. Now, one thing about me is I'm very meticulous with paperwork, and I'm very meticulous with everything. I have, to today, every car that I ever sold. I have every document for it, purchase order, what the car was purchased for, what I sold it for. So this guy sends me his BMW M6. And when the car shows up from Florida, I look at the car and I said, this car is not as you described it. This car also has a bad Carfax. And now, every time a car came into our dealership, I would always run a Manheim Market report, which is the auction. I would run a Kelley Blue Book report, and I would this way would tell you what the price would be if it was good condition, fair condition, bad, whatever. So I printed it out and said, your car's worth $22,000. You want $40,000. Not happening. So I said, I could probably retail it and try to get $35,000 for the car. He says, okay. So I sent him a consignment form. He signs it. We sold the car and the customer ended up buying the car, but he financed it. So what I did was I sent the guy wire payments. So as I'm sending him his wire transfer for his vehicles, he said, do me a favor, send me partial to my business account at my practice, send me some money to my wife's account, okay? And because all these guys, they got businesses, they got corporations, they got everything. So money is being sent to different areas. So I wired him $30,000 or the $35,000 I promised. And I said, at that point, I had $5,000 that was owed to him. And I said, well, what about my commission? I'm not going to do this for free. I want something. He takes an opportunity and he sends me an email and he says, my car was worth $60,000. You never paid me a single dime for my car. And you have till the end of the day to pay me my $60,000 or I'm going to the FBI. So what this guy was doing, he thought he was smart by sending me that email. All of a sudden, what he was going to do is that he can go to the FBI. Look, I sent him an email. He never responded to my email. I'm going to write an FBI report so I can go to my insurance company and collect $60,000. He forgot that he was dealing with Bobby Kahn, and Bobby Kahn keeps records on everything. His consignment form, every email he sent me after I sent him a wire transfer, right? Here's the wire transfer receipts from the banks for all his wire transfers. Clearly, I didn't pay his wife for sexual favors. I didn't pay him for this. I wouldn't screw his wife with a 10-foot pole, but everything is done, including here is his Manheim Market report and Kelley Blue Book report that shows his car was only worth $22,000, but he collected $30,000 from me. And here's his Carfax that shows he has a bad Carfax. He had a gray on gray BMW M6 convertible. Nobody likes those cars when they're brand new. Nobody wants them when they're used, but that just goes back to typical BMW drivers. They're just scumbags, and that's why I hate retail customers. So this guy decides, he goes to the FBI and he says, Bobby Kahn owes me $60,000. And the Federal Bureau of Idiots, what do? They don't sit there and investigate. Well, I mean, it's in their name. They should investigate, right? What they do is, okay, he owes you $60,000. Let's write down a report. Here's your report. Go to your insurance company and get paid. Or write it off as a loss on your taxes because now you just lost $60,000. Now, what the FBI should have done is said, hold on, what's your car? 2007. A quick Google search would have said, what 2007 BMW in 2014 M6 with those miles on it was worth $60,000? You could have ran the VIN number and said, well, your car's worth this much. Everybody else, every other dealer under the sun selling the car for, so how are you claiming he owes you $60,000? Where do you have a contract that says he owes you $60,000? And then they should have looked at my bank statements and said, why is this guy sending money to your business account? Right? That's what an investigation is. I'm not going to give credibility to this scumbag that I want to talk about next, but there's this guy that had a rental car company that bought and sold a few cars through me. I mean, this guy had, he would sell cars because he rented them out. He rented out exotic cars, and, when the cars were he needed cash or he was trying to unload some cars, he would put it on my dealership, so we'd sell them, so he would end up getting more money than wholesale, and he minimized his losses. He had a 2010 Ferrari 458. The reason I'm bringing this one up is because this car has made the rounds on the internet. I can't tell you how many YouTube videos have been made about this stupid car and how much how many lies have been told about me. Guy's a putz. Let me clear this for the record once and for all. He gives me this Ferrari. He wanted $200,000 for this Ferrari, and the car was worth about $180,000. I said I could probably get you $190,000. Now this goes back to how deals are done. So the car was on my lot. We sold the car. The customer that bought the car was a good client of mine, and he bought and sold many cars. Every couple months he'd buy new cars. He traded in 2 cars to buy that 1 car. And when he traded in the 2 cars, the difference between the 2 cars and the other rest that was balance was left was he financed it through TD Bank. Don't get me started on TD Bank. I'll come back to you on that one. He finances the difference. When the money came in from the bank, I paid this rental car company that portion. I told him, I said, when I sell the trade-ins, I will pay you the rest because, that's how it works. I mean, why am I going to lay out money when I'm not making any money in this? I'm doing this as a favor to you. So I had paid him $165,000 of the $190,000 that he was looking for, but we had come to a point where we said, okay, $185,000 is where we're going to meet. I only owed him $20,000. This wasn't my first car deal I did with him. I've done 10 other deals with him in the past. So this guy panics, this rental car company, and he goes and sells the car without my permission to somebody else, another dealer in California. He picks up the phone and calls a Ferrari dealer in Orange County, California, and he says, I got this 2010 Ferrari 458, black, this, and they said, we'll buy it. He collects money from them. He already collected $165,000 from me. So now he has over $300,000 that he's collected for a car that's only worth $180,000, let's just say, okay? Well, he can't sell the car because possession is 9/10 of the law. I had possession of the car. He gave it to me on consignment to sell the car. I sold the car. I'm just waiting to sell the trade-in to give him the rest of the $20,000. The dealer in California wants to pick up the car. Well, you can't pick up the car because the customer, I sold it to somebody. He has rightful possession of the car. He owns the car. He's going to get the title for the car. It's his car. Now, he should have never done that. So now what happens is he goes to the FBI and says, Bobby Khan screwed me. He sold my car. I never got paid. The Ferrari dealer goes out there and says, well, Bobby Khan screwed me. We bought a car. But hold on, the Ferrari dealer never paid me. They paid the rental car company. How am I getting charged for them too? So the FBI is just writing report after report. And it's just like that. One after the other, people went there and said, he owes me money. Write it down. I'm going to give you one more example. One of my managers that I gave a job to, he had a friend of his that had a Lamborghini Murcielago in orange, LP640. The guy couldn't afford his car anymore. His loan payment on that car was $5,000 a month. The employee comes to me and he says, can we put the car in consignment here? We pay the payment $5,000 a month, and when the car sells, whatever we paid, we'll deduct it, and then whatever's left after we pay off the bank will go to him so he can collect his equity. So I said, sure. So that car sat on my floor for 7 months. We had 2 deals on that car that fell apart. So the car was on my floor. When all of this news was happening, he shows up and I'm not at the dealership. And he wants to take his car. I said, well, what happened to the $35,000 that you owe me? They said, you can take your car once I get my $35,000. He said, well, I can't come up with $35,000, but I can wire you $25,000 right now. So being in my cash position as it is, I said, fine, I'll take the $10,000 loss. I said, wire me the $25,000. As soon as it hits, you can take the car. What I didn't know is that one of my employees at that time pulled the car off the showroom floor outside, waiting for the wire transfer to hit. This guy somehow had the spare key to the car. Instead of wiring me the money like he said he would, his son jumps in the car and drives the car off my lot. And as he's driving off my lot, I had a dip. He ripped the front bumper off and keeps going. This guy not only goes to the FBI and says, he damaged my car, he owes me money, he didn't give me the convertible top for my car, and I have the wrong rims on it, and I'm out $170,000. He gets an FBI report. He also files a civil case against me and says that I screwed him for all this money. I don't owe you money. You owe me money. I paid your payments. You damaged your car pulling out of my place like a thief. Then you didn't get your convertible top because you didn't pay me the money. So why would I give you your convertible top? And your rims were sitting there. If you would have paid me, you could have had your rims. But I'm the asshole. But the media takes that and glorifies it. Take Lamborghini guy loses $170,000. This Ferrari guy loses $300,000. And this guy, this YouTuber, goes online and saying, I lost $300,000. Bobby Kahn cost me $300,000. How did it cost you $300,000? Your car was $185,000. I gave you $165,000. You should have waited for the $20,000. The thing is, running to the FBI is not going to help you. You should have just worked with me. You knew me. You would have got your $20,000. Then you screwed the Ferrari dealer and blamed it on me. And now everybody's just piling on. It's like a big doggy pile. And at that point, my lawyers came to me and said, Bobby, the feds are going to come after you. He goes, you got a target on your back. And now this is payback for all those years ago. He goes, they're going to take you down. At this point, you got to stop talking to customers. You got to stop dealing with the public. He goes, what it is it's now ass covering time. He goes, if you were to go and fix this entire mess that's out there, he goes, if you paid the bank back the $800,000, it doesn't matter. They're still going to charge you. And I'm like, but I have proof of what happened. I know what's it. This all can be resolved. All we have to do, if the state would reactivate my license, I can liquidate my own cars. I can pay the bank and just deal with it. And then I'll sue the guy that screwed me on the titles. And yes, it'll take me years. But the thing is, there would be nobody. When you lose a shit ton of money in a matter of 72 hours, it hurts. I don't care who you are. And I'm not talking pennies here. These are cars that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I had the ability to make it clean. I could have liquidated my own cars and I could have paid the bank and resolved this mess. But nobody wants that, because if I resolve the mess, you don't get headlines. If I resolve the mess, you don't get to arrest me. You don't get to go to the press and destroy my reputation, which it was already destroyed at this point. So my lawyers, I said, but all we got to do is let's go to the FBI and let's lay it out there for them. So my lawyers tried to talk to the FBI. At this point, I got 4 lawyers, and lawyers are just, they're leeches. They latch on and they suck you for every money. So now I'm already cash poor, and now I'm giving whatever's left to the lawyers to clean this mess up. You know, these people think they're just tough guys. Everybody's a tough guy. Everybody's a tough guy when they're behind a keyboard. Everybody's a tough guy when they're hiding behind a camera or they're a mile away. But you're not a tough guy when you come to my face, because anybody that knows me, if you get in my face, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. Okay? And I always had, at all times, a guy with me that was armed. I've had him since I was 19 years old. I never left the house without somebody. I always traveled with somebody that was registered to carry a concealed weapon, because I felt safe that way, because I know how people are. I don't trust people, and that's how I've always chose to live my life. Just for the record, I don't want you to think I'm like John Gotti or something when I say I had a bodyguard and stuff. I had somebody with me at all times, that either it was a driver or somebody that carried a concealed weapon, because, you know, when you're driving around in fancy cars, when you have, you know, you're dealing with big sums of money, where we live, you know, you're in Jersey. People take advantage of you. A lot of people, like I've had in my time, people try to strong arm me. You know, I mean, there's all types of bad elements, okay? I'm not a guy that's going to back down. I had a Russian gangster one time put a gun at and threaten, you know, for me to sign over a title for a car, because he just wanted to strong arm me. And you know what I said? Guess what? My guy's got a gun too. You got a gun, I got a gun. So let's shoot. And people don't expect that. So I always had somebody, if you're going to come at me, unless you're going to shoot me, you're not going to scare me. And that's how I always live my life. One guy decides to come to, now the dealership's closed. And somehow he managed to get inside the dealership. And he comes in, and you know, like the typical Jersey bravado, this guy thinks he's some tough guy, and he thinks he's going to intimidate. So I'm sitting on my desk, and I got my lawyer, and this guy comes in, and he goes, I'm not leaving here without a check. He goes, otherwise I'm going to kick your ass down the Route 17. So when you're going through everything, you don't know who's recording you and who's doing what. So I just stayed quiet, and I looked at the guy that was sitting on the couch. And the guy sitting on the couch was an ex-police officer that obviously has a license to carry a concealed weapon. And he got up, and he grabbed him. And he said, we're going to have any problems. And he saw, when it went like that, his suit jacket moved. So the guy saw his gun. He goes running to the press and the FBI, and he's got a guy with guns around him, and he's got this, and they sensationalized that yes, I did have a bodyguard. A lot of people do, you know. I wasn't dealing with small sums of money. I was driving flashy cars. I lived the lifestyle. So I told my lawyers, go to the FBI, lay it all out there. I got all the documentation. Just show them that there's more to the story than meets the eye. And they shouldn't be looking at me. They should be looking at the person that put me in the mess. And on top of that, I have the opportunity to clean this mess up. There, like, people that are legitimately my customers can be made whole. People that aren't my customers, that aren't my responsibility, they shouldn't be thrown in my pile. Go deal with it. I also said to him, the guy that put me in this mess is under federal probation because for 5 years, because of his whole Quaalude indictment, which he ratted everybody out in. He got a sweetheart deal where he didn't get prison, he just got probation. If this would have came out that he was a part of this fraud, all of a sudden, he would be going to prison. Now enter the Federal Bureau of Idiots. I'm getting noise that the state is looking to charge me, and at the same time, the feds are looking to charge me. All for something that can be totally resolved, all for something that every car dealer in America goes through every day. And I'm screaming and yelling. I'm looking at these 4 idiot lawyers of mine, and I'm saying, what are you doing? Do you understand? I can go up and down the Garden State Parkway and pick out dealer after dealer that has had issues like this in the past, or is going through issues like this. But why am I being singled out? I know why, because I just appeared on a reality TV show. I got celebrity clients. I'm selling Rolls Royces. Nobody cares about the guy that drives the Honda Accord. Nobody cares about Carvana, who owes 6,000 people titles, and not one person is getting charged because maybe Dan Quayle sits on the board of directors. But they care about this small car dealer who has never had an issue in his 13 years from beginning to end, but now all of a sudden has an $800,000 problem, which could be totally fixed. But you want to come after me, both state and federal charges? So go to the FBI. Well, the FBI wants nothing to do with it. My lawyers go to the police. And the police, I've been good to. I donated a bulletproof Chevy Suburban to the cops. I used to give the cops free cars to drive. I would send food to the police departments a couple times a week. I always respected the police that took care of them. And I'm like, look, guys, people are threatening to my wife, kidnap my daughter, and threatening to shoot me in the head. Are you going to do anything to these people? You know what the FBI and the police said? Well, they say you screwed them out of money. I said, that's irrelevant at this point. They're threatening my life. They're committing a crime too. Threatening somebody's life is a crime. If we're going to charge people based off the fact that you broke a law, then we should charge everybody. It shouldn't be, well, we'll charge these people and we're not going to charge these people. At that point, I basically am told, you're on your own. You got to defend yourself. You got to basically look out for your own self. There's one person in this world I trust, and I'll never reveal who that person is. And I've made it very clear. If you tell me something, I'll listen to you, and I'll make it seem like I believe you, but then I'm going to have you double and triple checked. The other thing I always do is I make sure I know everything about everybody under the sun. If I'm going to even get to know you the slightest bit, you better know I know every skeleton in your closet. That's just how I live my life, because I know that if you're going to come for me, I want to make sure that I'm protected. So there's these people that are now taking advantage of the situation. And I'm like, hold on, you want to go down this road, you're going to be going to prison with me in cuffs, because people saw this as an opportunity. When you walk away with an FBI report, you go to an insurance company or you go to your accountant. Either you're getting a nice tax write-off or you're getting an insurance payday. The FBI is not helping me. No one's helping. One of my lawyers calls me up and he says, I got a solution to your problems. I said, okay. He goes, I want you to meet me in Hoboken this afternoon. And he goes, it's not traditional, but I'm going to solve your problems for you today. I'll never forget making that phone call. And I had to call my brother, who was a salesman at my dealership. And I had to call him up and I said, just shut it down. It's done. We're not getting this license back. It's over. I'm out of business. A business that I loved, not the retail part of it, but in the car business. At that point, I knew my days in the car business were over. Something that I loved my whole life since I was 19 years old. I never considered it work. It was my passion. And I have to say, it's over. And I was on my way to see this lawyer in Hoboken. And I get to this office, and it's an attorney's office. And I walk in, there's a table, and at the end of the table, there's two guys. And there's a guy on the right who says to me, he goes, if you give this guy $100,000 in cash, when you get charged and your case comes into my courtroom, I'll make sure you get bail, and in 6 months, I'll make sure I dismiss your case. That man right there was a judge. It was like time stopped, and I'm processing this, but I got to come up with an answer. So all I said to him was, I can't answer you right now, but I will get back to you. And I walked out of there. I grabbed my lawyer by his neck, and I slammed him up against, there was a 911 Turbo parked there. I'll never forget it. And I said, I don't know if you're trying to screw me or somebody else is trying to screw me. I said, but at this point, I don't know if this is a setup or if this is real. I said, but either which way, I'm screwed. I called up one of my lawyers, who's a big-time mob attorney. I've known him since I was a kid. And he used to park his cars in my dad's parking lot. I called him up and I said, I need to talk to you. This is just what just happened. He said, meet me in this parking garage. You okay? I go in the parking garage, and he said, Bobby, do you know any non-extradition countries? What do you mean? He said, do you know any non-extradition countries? I said, what are you talking about? He said, Bobby, your life as you know it just ended.
You're in the parking garage, and he tells you, do you know any non-extradition countries?
Yeah.
What is a non-extradition country?
A non-extradition country is where basically they don't extradite you back to the United States if you're charged with a crime in the United States. So basically, say you were charged with a crime in the U.S. and you got to that country, the U.S. can't ask them to send you back. You can live there freely because they don't extradite you.
So what does this mean for you in this moment?
So first off, I'm processing. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, let me break down the scenario. He goes, you're going to get charged with state charges. You're going to get charged with federal charges for wire fraud. He goes, they're going to seize your assets, whatever's left. He goes, you're not going to have any money to pay for lawyers. He goes, while you're in there, all these people that wrote up these FBI reports are now going to solidify it by filing civil lawsuits against you. The bank's going to hit you with a civil lawsuit. And he goes, how are you going to fight 30 different things at once? He goes, you're sitting in a jail cell. They're not going to give you bail. He goes, so you're not going to be able to get out. He goes, how are you going to support your family? Your wife doesn't work. Your kids are young. So how do you support your family? How do you take care and fight legal fees when you have no money? He goes, you're going to get instant judgments from this. He goes, they're going to give you some Mickey Mouse public defender you're going to be facing 20 years. And he goes, in a year's time, they're going to come to you and say, we'll make you a deal, 12 years, and we'll make all this go away. And he goes, you know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to sign away 12 years of your life. He goes, I'm telling you this because I love you like a kid. He goes, get the fuck out of here. He goes, but you can't tell anybody. He said, I got homes, I got a business, I got cars. I said, I got a wife, I got kids, I got everything. He said, you got nothing. He goes, you can't take anything with you. He goes, you can't even tell your wife. I said, I got a newborn. I got a 12-year-old. I got a 5-year-old. He said, if she loves you, she'll figure it out and she'll be there for you. I said, but what do I tell her? He said, that's up to you. You have to figure it out. He goes, but you can't tell her where you're going, what you're doing. I said, when does this have to happen? He goes, now. I said, what do you mean now? He goes, today. He goes, they're coming for you and they're going to come for you hard. He goes, this is payback for all those years. He goes, you walked away. He goes, you threw it in their face. You got flashy. He goes, they don't like flashy people. He goes, they don't like Muslims that are flashy. He goes, you're the son of immigrants that came to this country and lived the American dream. He goes, that FBI agent has to sit here and go home in that same Ford Explorer every day wearing that $200 suit from Macy's. He goes, he doesn't like you. He doesn't like to see you succeed. He goes, why would they want you to clean up this mess? They take you down. They get headlines. He goes, but they don't have to go, they're not going to take down the Toyota dealer or the Honda dealer because nobody cares. When you say, Honda dealer screws over people that are white collar people for $3 million, it doesn't make a headline. But when you say a celebrity car dealer screws over people and doesn't give them titles for Rolls Royces and Lamborghini, that's a salacious headline. All of a sudden, they're going to pad their resumes, they're going to beat their chest with you. He goes, this is my last conversation with you. He goes, you leave. And he goes, I will do what I can to help you while you're gone and try to clean up this mess. So I said, how long do I go away for? He goes, I don't know. He goes, at the right time, you'll know. That was the longest drive home. It's like when you're about to face the execution.